we are not what has happened. We are not what we have seen.
I still believe there are many good people who are not just simply not coming out.
Maybe a starting point when we sit together is to recall the grief and loss of the other.
My only disappointment is that it is a bit too late.
If the central government is not willing to change and we have no choice, are we that dumb or are we that powerless that we cannot do anything? Should we allow them to manipulate us to continue like this? No.
Zindabad, Namaste, Salam. Welcome to this new episode of our discussion series on the state of the Indian Republic. We've called it Ye Daag Daag Ujala as a tribute to the iconic poem by Faiz Ahmed Faiz. In this episode, we will be discussing the question, what will it take to bring back peace to Manipur? On May 3rd, a full year would have passed since the violence in Manipur started. And Manipur still remains profoundly wounded. It's engulfed in what can only be described as a civil war of the kind that independent India has not seen. Killings still continue. Populations are completely divided. One community in the valley, another community in the southern hills. Thousands continue to live in very poorly provisioned relief camps. The two phases of the elections that have been undertaken so far has seen armed groups doing booth capturing of a kind that in most parts of India now at least has gone into history. In our discussions as we sit and talk today, I don't propose that we will look back as much as we will look forward. The question, as I said, is how do we build peace once again for the people of Manipur? How can they get back a life of goodwill and security? For this discussion, I'm privileged to be joined on the one hand by Dr. Bidhan Laishram. He's an associate professor in the Delhi Zakir Hussain College of Delhi University. He teaches political science. And with us also is Sem Haokip. Sem is a consultant, a peace activist, and a member of the Kuki INPI. This is the apex body of the Kuki community. Thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you.
Friends, let us start. A lot of our viewers would not have had the privilege of having visited Manipur and traveled in that beautiful part of our country and don't know so much about its history and culture. So for those viewers, what would you like to tell them about what you love about your homeland? Bidhan, why don't you start?
Okay, Hers, thank you so much, first of all, for having us here. This is an important initiative, and at the very outset, I would also like to say this, that when I speak today, I do not represent any organization or any community. I speak on behalf of myself.
Sure.
Yeah. Manipur is, I remember the state as a beautiful state, beautiful and small. What I like most about this state is that it is marked by a deep diversity. This diversity is in terms of cultures, religions, languages, and you can call it a mini India. In fact, the beauty of India is in a microscopic level represented by Manipur. It is inhabited by about 34 communities. and it has all the religions from Buddhism to Jainism, to Islam, Hindus, Christians, and historically it has evolved as a kind of a polity over the years. And despite hiccups and here and there throughout history, as it happens in every kingdom or country, it has managed to remain a harmonious coexistence of these communities. So, without going deep into the history, I would love to say that what I like about the state is this history of this coexistence.
Wonderful. And Manipur really has probably one of the longest lasting dynasties in the world, more than 2,000 years, an unbroken dynasty.
That's right. That's right. Historians trace the unbroken lineage to somewhere around 33 AD. Yeah, and I mean, until it was conquered by British in 1891. Of course, it had fluctuating fates over time, fluctuating boundaries, but somehow, yeah, historians and the Royal Chronicle traces its lineage to 33 AD. Yeah.
And also, I think one more interesting thing to talk about Manipur is that before its merger in India, the king had already instituted democracy.
Exactly. Yeah, that was 1948. When for the first time in all of South Asia, democratic election based on universal franchise was held, and
For the first time in Manipur.
in Manipur, and that happened first time in South Asia, and democratic legislative assembly was inaugurated in 1948, with the king becoming a constitutional monarch, and that became abolished in 1949 when Manipur merged with India in October 1949.
So, Sem, what is it that you love about Manipur? And I must say that I was privileged. My father was a civil servant. He worked a lot in Arunachal, but also in Manipur. So it's a land that I love deeply myself. Tell me, what is it that that you'd like to tell the viewers about Manipur?
Like my friend Bidhan said, I want to say thank you to her and the team for having us to have this important discussion on peace and the future steps of our state, which we love very much. And on the question of what I would like to tell the viewers about my state or Manipur. Manipur is a beautiful state surrounded by a valley surrounded by hills, and the people have lived there for centuries, many years together peacefully. And that peaceful coexistence is being threatened, as we all know. And that is where I am here, and I would like to appeal to both the communities, both the Métis and the Kuki communities, right-thinking people, and also our friends and viewers outside who have not visited Manipur. Please come and visit us, and come alongside us, and to bring
To hold our hands.
to hold our hands and bring peace to our state. Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. That was lovely. Let me now ask probably the most painful question that I have to ask, and that is, where does Manipur stand today? I know you have family, you have friends, you have communities. You must be getting the news all the time. But I've been to Manipur a few times. You find that people are still stranded in camps. the places is brutalized, divided, killings still continue. The fires that were lit a year ago seem to be still burning. The wounds that that were placed on bodies and hearts and minds, they don't seem to have been healed so far. But that is still, as an outsider, this is what I see. Where would you place Manipur today? Not looking back in the past year, but where is it now? Bidhan.
Well, to be honest, the state and the people there, we are in a wretched condition today.
Wretched condition.
Yeah, it's where our lives are torn apart, and the word tragedy itself falls short of describing this tragedy. So it is like erecting barriers and barriers upon barriers and barriers between communities, and the vibrancy that marked the life of cultural communities there has been completely silenced. And our silence is a very mournful and painful silence. And voices that are unreasonable, voices that should not be able to spring up in a decent society, have taken over the public discourse. So sane and reasonable voices are finding it very difficult, in fact, to be able to say that this madness must stop. So we are in a very sad situation, to be honest.
And that is why we are sitting here and talking. Sem, what would you like to tell us about where your homeland stands today?
First, I cannot hold myself for to talk about the present situation. Let me share a little bit of what we had in the past. As I said, there was peaceful coexistence and so much of oneness and relationship. And today, that relationship is, totally, you can say, broken. I have many good friends. I cannot meet them. And so the whole society or the whole community, there is a marked division on community lines, which
it's almost like a border, like an international border. You just can't cross.
Yes, which we have never experienced. For example, Bidhan will know, there is a word called Itao. My grandpa had his friend called Itao, and his friend's children become my father's friend. And because of that relationship, I stay with them when I was studying in class 5. And that is the relationship. And that kind of love and relationship.
And they were from which community? They were from the Meitei community.
Yes, the Meitei community. I am from the hills. And when I come down to Infa for study, it was my grandpas and my father's Itaos who accepted me as part of their family. And I keep asking, will that kind of relationship will happen? Yes, maybe, but it will take a lot of effort. And now, like Bidhan said, not only that, a section of the victims, let's say the directly affected people, I'm also affected, but my loss is nothing compared to people who have lost their loved ones, their properties. When I say this, I'm talking in both sides. It's not only the cookies, it's also the Métis. So on both sides, people have lost. And what is there for them? Who is talking about them? Who is thinking about people living in relief camps? I have visited many relief camps. I don't know much about in the valley because I could not go there.
Yeah, I have visited camps on both sides, and it's, I mean, nobody should have to live the way that people are living in the camps.
Yes. So even very basic minimum amenities are missing. And the children, since I work with schools, my burden is on the children, the future of these children. How many of the children are affected? And what do they get out of this? So, and do they have hope? I'm not sure. That is the situation at the moment.
Sem, that really brings me, we cannot allow our people, and when I'm saying our people, the Manipuri people, Kuki, Maiti, Naga, to live without hope. That is not acceptable. Yes. Which is what brings me really to the central question of our discussion. And whoever wants to might take this up. My question is, what will it take to bring back peace to Manipur? What will it take to bring back hope to the people of Manipur? And let's hear, let's step back a little bit. We understand the constraints, and I'll talk about the constraints as well. But what really should happen? Who would like to?
Harsh, we are here as an individual. I believe we cannot undo what has happened, but we can take some steps for the future. So what has happened and what continue to happen is not acceptable. So people, as on today, there are people who is talking about peace. Nobody.
Almost nobody, yes.
No one, almost nobody. And Bidhan and I know that there will be a backlash. Who authorized them to talk about peace? But we come in that.
And it's taken courage for you to come out and say there should be peace.
Yes.
And that really reflects on how difficult a time we are in, that to speak of peace requires courage.
Yes. So we are here appealing to both the communities and leaders. And what would it take? What would it take to bring peace back to Manipur? Maybe a couple of ideas. One, if you ask me what do I expect from the government, I think the leadership, both at the center and the state, if they have done, what they have done is not enough. And I, as an individual person, I didn't expect much to come forth in the future. Maybe talking about the government, the change in leadership, if that can happen, would be one desire, I would say, because we have seen what our leadership has done, and we cannot allow to continue to happen this. If the central government is not willing to change, and we have no choice, we cannot do anything about it. But just because we cannot do anything about it, are we that dumb or are we that powerless that we cannot do anything? Should we allow them to manipulate us to continue like this? No. There is something that we can do at individual level, this level.
And what is that?
Yeah, the civil societies, I know in many, my experience, as I said, I lived with the Métis during my childhood. The Métis community is very disciplined, very civilized and society. And I still believe there are many good people who are not just simply not coming out. I would appeal to them to come out and speak in both sides. Speak. We need to start talking. We need to start speaking out. Why should we allow someone to silence us, continue to silence us? One, we can start speaking. We can start reaching out to like-minded people. For example, the fact that I share stage with Bidhan today, it's a relationship. We can continue to build at a personal level this kind of discourse. We should be talking. It's a hard discussion, it's a hard issue, but we should be able to talk across the tables. Thirdly, like my childhood experience, that Itao concept, we call it job. Itao concept is very powerful. Once I call you Itao, he calls me Itao. He or she is accepted as a part of the family. And there is another concept called Mangai. The ladies who go for business in the market, from the hill, they will have Mangai, Imas, mothers in the valley who also do business. If my mother or my sister takes vegetables or goods from the hills to go and share, she will go to her Mangai first. Whether the goods are good or bad, the Mangai will take it in good and in difficult times. So that kind of relationship, there is a small window, like you say, space available to the people. Why don't we exploit that? Why don't we tap that potential? I don't want to see that we are totally, helpless, or there is nothing we can do about if our politicians are not taking steps. That is what I
think very gentle and quite profound were the things that Sem brought before us. I mean, in his very gentle way, he said the government should change. Or I'll say it more explicitly, that we cannot continue with the government that has failed us so profoundly. And that's about the state government. And the central government should not be allowed to manipulate us. I mean, I think that's one thing I heard him say. The second was that we must bring courage to speak out for peace. There's a total silence about that. And the third that he said is that good people, and there's no shortage of good people in both communities, they must emerge from their silences, come out from their silences, and come out into the center of civil society and reach out to each other. And he also spoke about traditional ways of relationships that have existed, of the kind that he described, of people between communities. Let us reclaim those. How much do you agree with his suggestions, and what more would you like to add?
I fully agree with Brother Sem. In fact, I would like to supplement some of the things that he said, particularly about this practice of Itao Sanava. Itao is an ancient word for friend. But once you accept somebody as Itao, it's like you are placing your life in the defense of the other, of your friend, the way your friend would also...
You pledge your life
exactly
in protection of that friend.
Of that friend, just the way your friend would also place his. And in case one of them happens to expire before the other, the survivor is duty bound to look after the friend's family. That kind of friendship existed particularly between the hill communities and valley Meitei people. I remember my mother's, on my mother's side, my grandpa, maternal grandpa, had a friend like that, had a Itau like that. He had visited us after my maternal grandpa's expiry, after his death, and I was a small kid at that time. So I also have memories of these practices which are dying out, and how my mother received him. And when I told this story, can I take a little more to describe this one particular occasion?
Absolutely.
This was one evening, the sun had set, and we were running around as kids on the lawns. And came this old gentleman who we had never seen, and we boys and girls were something like 7, 8 of them running around at dusk. And suddenly, my mom came out, and when she saw him, I saw that she had tear-filled eyes, and the grandpa addressed her daughter, my daughter, something like that. So my mother went to the market to buy for her father, for her papa, this eel feast, which she was almost allergic at the very sight of which. But because this visitor, this grandpa, who had likes it, she went on her own. She personally went and bought it, and my father cooked it for him. And I slept in the same bed with this grandpa, which was a sign of the bonding that with grandpa like that. I was a small kid at that time, so that kind of relationship existed, and I remember these practices.
Can I add a little bit though? In this current situation where every heart is dominated, taken over by hatreds and violence, I think we need to fight these hatreds with love and compassion. I believe that every person, you, I, Bidhan, we all have compassion. And because of the situation, violence situation has taken my compassion for my brother.
So I have to find that compassion.
Yes, you have to find at the back that compassion. We can fight this hate or hatred with compassion and love. There is no other way that we cannot do it. There has to be that.
I cannot agree with you more, and among other people, Gandhiji kept reminding us, because when partition happened, 1 million people killed each other, and he would often remind us that you cannot fight hate with hate. Hate will only deepen. We'll have to search again for our capacities to love, and it is only that can show us a way forward.
Also, I was just remembering these shared spaces, like, for example, unlike the markets in the center of the valley, there are these market areas in the foothills, in the areas adjoining hills and valley. Once I visited this marketplace, and unlike the market that is very nearby my home, this market, was full of life till about 10 o'clock in the evening. And then I saw these mothers and sisters from the hills, from the nearby hills, walking around, having tea, and having conversation with all sorts of friends. So I happened to ask one of my friends, when did they go back home? I mean, isn't it already late? 10 o'clock, in Manipur is like pretty late. So they said, no, they will take their own time, and then everybody is safe around here, and they will take their own sweet time and go back. Whereas in the market that is near my home, which is a few kilometers away from this place, life comes to a standstill around 8 o'clock. So there are these shared spaces, and there are practices and people's lifestyles in these shared spaces tell a very different story from the kind of situation and picture that we get to see from where people have visited and also have become very fashionable for people to narrate, particularly after this tragic series of violences in Manipur recently. But if I may take a little longer, regarding what we should be doing, I really don't know what we should be doing, but everybody, I believe, accepts that this is time to seek a closure. The closure is both at the individual level as well as at a political level.
And at a community level, I guess.
At a community level as well. So, first of all, it of course requires that all of us must be able to summon the moral courage to accept that something wrong has happened. But despite most of us agreeing that something wrong has happened, we are not yet able to say this in public that something wrong has happened. And this is the bigger tragedy facing us today.
Bidhan, I've also had many conversations. When this kind of division happens, estrangement, often when I sit with people of the Maiti community, they'll talk about what they have suffered, but not recognize that the other community has suffered deeply. And likewise with the two communities. So maybe a starting point when we sit together is to recall the grief and loss of the other.
Exactly.
And then in the shared pain and loss, maybe we'll find the places to forgive and heal.
We must be able to face the truth. The truth is that both communities have suffered, and that there are stories that we cannot even share in public. And if we believe that we have a spiritual, moral side to being a human, then we must accept this, that both communities have suffered. I think I will be lying to myself if I ever took a contrary position.
But Bidhan and Sem, these are lovely ideas, and I don't think nothing else can really change and restore peace and goodwill in Manipur, except where we find our own capacities for compassion, for kindness, we acknowledge each other's suffering and pain, and we restore and reclaim much older ways of sharing and building relationships. But how hopeful are you that this is going to happen? What are the barriers? Why is it not happening? Why are people so frightened to speak of peace? And I know for both of you to come onto this show has been really difficult. You've struggled with your families, with your communities. Can we go out and speak for peace? So how do we overcome this climate where hate seems to have dug so deep, and the barriers between us are so vast that we don't seem to cross them? How do we change that?
Well, first of all, in a democracy, particularly in a democracy, of course, the very sole reason why governments exist, in fact, the primary reason as to why governments come into existence is that they must be able to protect the life of peoples. In this case, because the governments have failed to protect the lives of the people, we must be able to say that governments have failed us. But in order to bring peace, I do not really pin my hope on the governments, because they have failed for about a year now. I would love to see people coming up on their own and say that we must be able to live together.
And the state is not going to do this.
The state, I don't think, is going to do it, and for whatever reasons, which I would not really like to go into now. But I think, despite the unspeakable brutalities and instances of atrocities, I think people are still capable of coming up with peace initiatives. I'm sure that civil society organizations must be preparing to do this at some point of time. My only concern here, my only disappointment is that it is a bit too late.
It is a bit too late, and there isn't even that stirring yet.
Exactly.
And that is why I was so important. I felt it was so important for us to sit in and bring this out. Sem, how hopeful are you that this will happen?
First of all, we didn't expect this kind of magnitude of hatred and violence will happen in the first place.
Yeah, in
But
fact,
it happened.
it's become like a civil war, which we
Yes.
which we haven't seen
Yes.
in India so far.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have been saying again and again this has not happened and we didn't expect it. But I think I also don't want to undermine the power of love and the goodness of other peoples at the individual levels. How hopeful I am at the moment, let's also recognize that people are in pain, deeply wounded, and they cannot think of any other things than taking revenge for the loved ones they lost. Justified from both sides. That is the pain. That is real. And that is true. That is the truth. You know, people, if you look at from the outside world or from those who are indirectly affected, it's easy to say. But for people who are really affected, who have lost their loved ones, nobody can compensate with any amount of work at the moment. That is the situation, and but that should not keep us from talking about peace, rebuilding it, relationship at personal level, and the power of asking for forgiveness, or we need to see this not at my own as a long-term strategy, not just things will happen tomorrow. It will take us maybe many years, and taking a step today will lead us to one positive outcome. Building on that, I should say that I'm hopeful, and I'm believing in the power of people's capacity to love and forgive one another. How I remember a lady who lost her husband in the valley. I forgot her name. Bidhan, maybe you can tell me. Who lost her husband. So she can put all her negative energies to hate the cookies. But she said, let this be the last time people kill. Yes, my husband will not come back. I don't want any other people being killed again. Let this be the last one. You know, I would also echo in that.
Let there be no more widows.
Yeah.
Is what she says.
So that is the will. The will. You know, we can channelize the energies in a positive way, and that is powerful. And she can be who. We haven't heard her. We should be inviting her to talk about that. She is one, and that's why we are here today. I'm also saying that enough. How long we will allow to continue this? I can say for myself, Harsh. So I can say for myself to start, if I can be his Itao or he can be my Itao today. That is at the individual level. For others at the community level or at the political level, it will take a longer or more open, hard talks at all levels. And that will take time, which is beyond our, I should say, discussion at the moment, but we can talk at our level. So we should be building on step by step.
You're saying we have to rediscover our own capacities for compassion, for forgiveness, and each one has to reach out. And that the government is not going to do this for us. Even political leaders are not going to do this for us. And so we have to do it ourselves, for ourselves. That's really what I think I'm hearing you say. I recall in my last visit, I spent time in camps, and there was this one young boy, this small, who had lost his eyesight. Very lively child. I mean, he was very attractive. You saw him in the camp, and he was talking with his mother. And the question, I mean, I didn't understand the language. Then I asked the pastor, what is he saying? And the little boy is saying, I don't understand, why did these people come and burn our village? At a very fundamental level, I was beginning to think, how will we ever be able to answer him? So hatred there's no rationality in hate. There is no, and there's no future in hate as well. And unless we break that cycle, we are not going to come out as society. The last question really that I wanted to, and any last thoughts that you both had. I see Manipur today completely bereft of hope. And seeing other parts of India, I mean, when you go to Kashmir has got so emptied out of hope that there is a sadness and there are mental health issues that have overtaken. I see that beginning to happen among young Manipuris as well. So to a young Manipuri, what is it that you both can say that gives them hope? That doesn't leave them in a situation where they believe nothing is going to happen and they take drugs or they lose hope in life itself. We cannot let that happen to younger people. We are both all three of an older generation. What would you like to last say to young people?
Well, the situation is has been so bad that we are left struggling to find words. But one must also be able to say this, that whatever has happened is an aberration. It hasn't been the norm, and we are not what has happened. We are not what we have seen.
We are not defined. We have not become what we did.
Yeah, and we, all of us, on both sides of the communities, are not to be defined by this episode. So we have a lot to look forward in future, and there is a lot of love, and there is a lot of hope, and that is evident in another history that is not very visible right now. So we should not lose hope. In fact, I really don't know what else I can say. But Sam can also say something.
Yeah, difficult to say, but the future belongs to the youth, to them. So it is a hard choice they have to make. You know, they have seen they are technologically advanced, they are more educated, and they have seen what happened. It's there in front of them. A question I would ask to every youth of Manipur is this something that they would like to inherit?
Is this something that they want to give their children?
Yes. Is something that I like to give to my children as a legacy? Absolutely no. That's why I'm here. Absolutely no. So I would also ask them, it's a choice they need to make it. If they see that their father's generation has done something wrong and they strongly believe that this is not what they want of their state, their people, their community, or their village. So it's time that they put their foot down and speak up. So it would require a lot of going against the tide and a lot of courage. And I would also say that when they speak, they will not be alone. And they should start speaking. That's what they should choose. They should make a decision today. And that's what I would say. Thank you.
You're absolutely right, Sam. Whenever through history the world has lost its way, it is young people who have come forward and shown them where they must go. Right as we speak in universities across the United States, it is young people who have come out and said, "Don't allow the slaughter of the Palestinian people in Gaza to continue." And it requires huge courage to do that in the environment.
Absolutely.
And it again gives back hope. So it is young people of Manipur in the end who have to say, no, this Manipur that is founded now on hate is not our Manipur. It's not the Manipur of our 2,000-year history. It's not the Manipur that I want to grow old in. It's not the Manipur I will give to my children. And for that, I must have the courage. And I've always believed that killing, harming an unarmed person doesn't require courage. Stopping hate, stopping violence, and standing up for peace is what requires the greatest courage. And so it is the courage, it is our courage to call for peace, and it's our courage to call for restoring love of the kind that you both so beautifully described from your own childhood histories. That is the Manipur we must, you, me, and all of us must, but most of all young people must reclaim.
I also wanted to make I want to add one I forgot. You know, at the moment, if you expect the Métis and the Kukis to come together and start talking to one another, on their own it will not happen at this time. And we need a third party. For example, you brought us together.
Symbolically.
Yes,
symbolically. And it took a long time actually. We've been talking for a month. Yes. But it was necessary that somebody brought you together, and look what a beautiful conversation it has been.
Yes, yeah, a neutral person. For example, if I invite Bidhan, because I'm a Kuki, he will not come. If he invite me, he is a Métis, I will not come. So the trust deficit is so low, So we need a third party who can mediate between the two at different levels, individual levels, at community levels, or at higher political levels. So that is also something I would, core for our viewers or anyone who is interested in helping the people of Manipur or coming alongside in this critical juncture.
It's great. Bidhan, any last word? I'll leave the last word to you.
In fact, it has been a beautiful conversation. I really wasn't sure of what I was going to speak, but you have made it easier for us, and it has been by my side, Brother Sem, and it's I think a beautiful conversation, and it's a very important initiative. I agree with Brother Sem when he said that we in fact need a third party to be able to bring the two communities together. But this, I think I may be a little controversial when I say this, because many people might not agree. But the larger community, because they are the larger community, I believe, and this is strictly my personal opinion, should also summon up the moral courage to be able to go out first and take the first step and say that whatever has happened has happened, and we now must be able to do something to address the pain and hurt and all these wounds. I don't know how it might happen, but I'm just hoping that it is possible.
Bidhan, that too is a voice of conscience and courage to say that my community, which is the larger community, which is the stronger community, we must find the courage to reach out and to say that. I know how difficult it is, and I really respect you for that, and I hope both your voices are heard by people in Manipur.
Thank you. Maybe the time is a little, the wounds are still too fresh, and people are perhaps not able to come out of it because of that. But I just hope that people do it sooner rather than later.
So thank you, my friends. It was a lovely conversation of hope, and the hope that we will not let Manipur, the people of Manipur, live with hate, live with fear, live with loss, and we must restore hope to our people. Thank you for the courage and the humanity that both of you displayed. Thank you, sir. Thanks so much. Thank you.
ये दाग दाग उजाला, ये शब गजीदा सहर, वो इंतजार था जिसका, ये वो सहर तो नहीं।